It's doable. We're recording, Aaron.
Excellent. All right, good. Well, then I should say something because we're recording, and it's important that we don't just leave dead air. I think that's the key in being compelling. We could just start with a be with.
Just staring each other's eyes.
You stare longingly. Yeah, I think let's start with the 3 L's. Let's just start, because I think the intention here of recording this and getting this out and getting this to people and having people watch is to get feedback, to start to hear from people. Is this a conversation? Is this an experiment? Is this something that calls them, speaks to them, that would be of interest to them?
Yeah.
To engage in, and then just for us to get clear about what it is we're offering, what it is we're talking about, and what it is we're actually out to create.
I think too, if I go back just for a little context of what we're like, this experiment of things, you and I started talking about creating something for agents. You and I have both been in real estate. You're in real estate now. I was in real estate for 13 years. And so we have some roots there. But you and I also have context or relationship in transformational space, conversations that would change the world, things that like what would be good for humans. And I think you and I started talking about real estate as are there other agents who think this way, feel this way, that want to make an impact for humans, and that goes beyond the typical industry metrics of GCI listings, open houses, which is fine, but there's something more, and it's often not cultivated in the real estate industry.
It's also beyond, I tithe, or, I red day, or, and those are fine too. Nothing, it's great. Red day is fantastic. It's, or whatever your brokerage's version of that is. And that's all good. Or whatever you do on your volunteer time, or whatever you do to contribute is fantastic. And but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about having your business be an expression of, the fulfillment of, the vehicle to fulfill on some larger conversation that you're committed to. That it's not ancillary. It's not an add-on. It's not additional to. It is your business.
Yeah, that's really important, because I think a lot of people would hear this and could hear this in their normal pattern of rhythm of life. Even mission, purpose-driven type people could hear this and be like, I don't have time for another thing.
That's right.
An ancillary thing.
Or it goes right down the tunnel. It's automatic, goes right down the tunnel of, well, if I increase my GCI, I can contribute more.
Right.
And that's a fact. That is, in fact, true. But it's not what this is. That's not what the experiment that we're out to create is. The experiment really is, did you have your business, the business itself? And so let's talk about that. Let's, we're talking about leveraging. Let's just start with leverage, right? Leverage as in, who, and Chris, this was your idea. So I want to see if I can recreate it, because this is an idea that you came to me with. And that is, who a real estate agent, who a broker is in their community, the number of people that we touch, number of people that we're engaged with, the number of people that look to us for counsel, for guidance in a life-changing opportunity. So everyone we work with inside of an event that changes their life.
That's right.
Right. And I don't think that's present for people. I mean, it's certainly not present for a transactional agent.
Sure.
But if you're a relational agent, then it is clearer for you that I think that, that you've just been engaged with a life-changing opportunity. So you've been let into someone's life.
Right.
In a really personal, impactful way. And I don't know that we are responsible for that, like in the presence of, and really dealing with what it's like to have made that difference for those people and who we must be for them.
Yeah.
Now for sure, there's transactional customers. We all have customers that, either we sold their house and they moved out of state and there goes the transaction and we're out. Right.
Right.
Or you know, whatever. But there's enough, and who we're speaking to are people who have enough of a community of people that relate to us as we are a part of something central to them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that, and then, we could call that, as Seth Godin would call it, a tribe. We could call it a community. We could call it, but if we acknowledge it as that, then we begin to create or look to see, who are these people, and how can I, and see, the problem with leverage as a word is it has connotations of, I'm going to use them for something.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought about that. You're right.
Right.
I love leverage so much because I love I love being intentional with my time. I love doing the 20% that gives me 80% of the result. Like I love the whole idea that I could be more productive about something. And I think that's the context of leverage. Like, how do you be more? One of the things that's unique, I think, to the real estate industry is that agents do this. When you're good, agents do this amazing job of staying in touch with people over time. Like I can't think of another industry where people are as present with their sphere of influence, communicating, especially in a buying cycle that's 7 to 9 years. Like, when they're that consistent about showing up, marketing or nurturing the relationship, agents do such a great job of this. And so there's a lot of
good agents do.
Right. There's a lot
relational
of leverage.
Agents do. The relationship-based agent does.
Yeah, right. And I think there's a lot of to use the word leverage here. There's a lot of leverage in the existing action of relationship-based productive agents. There's things you're already doing, but if you could top grade, level up, if you could focus how you're cultivating that relationship for the purpose of your legacy, for the purpose of your impact, for the purpose of your purpose, that would take it beyond a transaction. That would take it beyond the next house you're selling. And it would put you in a position of, look, selling the house to them is a really big transaction for them. And it's a meaningful moment for them. And when you're a purpose driven, when you're a purpose centered human, there is a bigger contribution you can make. And you can make it through your business because your business provides the leverage to do that.
Yeah. And I think that's the leverage we're talking about.
Yes.
The opportunity. And then that's exactly then where leadership, that's where you move into the leadership circle, right? Or the conversation we're having around leadership. So if you're talking about leveraging your position in people's lives, in these people's lives, right? And I think the thing you said about top grading is useful because it's not for everyone you've ever sold a house to, right? Or for. It's for those that are, connected to you in some way. And now you begin to get, okay, I have a purpose on the planet in that I'm out to fulfill. It is specific to me. It inspires me. It makes a difference in the world. It calls me to act. It lights me up. It is, in fact, something that I'm up to, right? And now I can provide my leadership to my community, to the people that are interested, and leverage the people that I already have in this circle and the marketing I already do, the business I already have, what I'm up to, and really provide leadership in this purpose, in this cause, in this future that I'm out to create for people, and really begin to create that world, right? And that's where leadership is. And that's, again, right from Seth Godin, is leadership's required in that space. You're starting the conversations, and you'll filter out the people that were really just transactional to the people that really are out to empower what you're up to. Because I'm asserting, and I think this is your assertion as well, is that those people that you're marketing to, that you've kept in touch with in your database, the people that you love, the people that you look at your client list and you think this 30%, this 20%, whatever it is, are people that make me smile. I would have them at my house. We would, those people are already connected to your purpose.
Right.
They just already are. There's just no, it's not been articulated. There's been no real leadership created to expand it.
Yeah. Right.
Right. And then your business then becomes that kind of central. Was the third L there leads?
Our third L was legacy.
Legacy. Legacy. Okay. It's like, where did this go?
But before you go to legacy, because I want to say, like, on leadership, and you said this on a,
but it would turn into leads. It would turn into leads.
Yeah, well, it would. I mean, well, I think that's part of the leverage is, like, when you're top grading a database for people who see the vision you see.
Yeah.
If you had 1,000-person database of random people in your sphere of influence, and you did a great job of building relationship with them, and they trusted you for a real estate transaction, that's great, and you made a difference for them. And then similarly but different, you have 1,000-person database, but those 1,000 people are all aligned with the impact you want to make in the world that you say your life is for. Both 1,000 people groups have real estate in their future. So they all at some point need to buy or sell a house, but one is leveraged for the sake of the vision, the purpose, you're all headed in the same direction, but what's missing has been leadership. And you, as the agent who is using the business as a staging point to fulfill that, you are the leader. You're the one who's incentivized to communicate what's going on, what you see, what's next. And I think, so what I was going to say about our conversation on my other podcast is, you talked about creating the gap. One of the things we do as leaders is we create the gap. We say, hey, here's where we are. Here's what I see as possible. And in your own distinguishing that gap where we are and what's possible, you now have a direction to go. And I think unless we put words to that as human beings that have a purpose to fulfill, what will happen is we'll just devolve back to the status quo or the way it is. Right. What separates you as this kind of agent, I keep wrestling with words. Like, do I say purpose driven? Like, this isn't like a Rick Warren thing. Like, it's like, but when you're an agent that has a purpose beyond the transaction, you are distinguishing yourself from all the other agents who are in the trenches of real estate. There's no gap they're creating.
Right.
Every other agent, successful or not, is in the same industry, and at some level is you could say my commodity. I was going to say, you could say your differentiation is that you're fiduciary, but the reality is most agents are functionary. They're replaceable. Right. Because they're a commodity, because it's a task and checklist. And
yeah, I mean, to a large extent, this industry gets what it deserves in terms of its what's the word? Disintermediation. Because we've turned ourselves into a lowest price point commodity versus really providing leadership for what matters and creating that opportunity for people and unleashing our vision for people and having where we stand in people's lives be in the central position of life-changing event. But that's how we get connected. And we certainly provide the function, the service, but we're doing it inside of this is, I'm doing this for people who are up to this, and I'm doing this to empower people who are up to this. And I use my resources to fulfill on this. And then it really does. Then the only other conversation to really fill that triangle, fill that space is legacy. It then becomes, who you are and who you are now and the future you are and what you're leaving behind and the kind of legacy. Like when people think of you, they think of that future. They think of what you're up to and they're out fulfilling on it, whether or not you become their, fiduciary or their counsel in the domain of real estate. You still have made that difference and you're still out fulfilling on that. And it is, what, I don't know what I've heard this term and I don't know what it means, but a virtuous cycle. And I don't know where it's from or what it means, but it certainly seems apropos to this.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd have to do some research. If anyone listening knows virtuous cycle comes from something, I mean, I'll
That's
Google
not at all what
it
that
when
means, Aaron.
exactly.
You just offended
That's what Hitler used.
right. You just offended everybody.
Exactly. I don't know. So we'll find out, but
Right.
it does seem like that. But anyway, it becomes that then does, perform in the same function or the same way, the same mechanics of leads, listing, leverage that, real estate agents are trained in. This
Right.
becomes, leverage, leadership, legacy, and it performs in the same sort of cyclical,
Right.
building upon itself way of really creating and fulfilling something. And I think a lot of what we're doing on this particular, in today's particular conversation is beginning to, and the whole purpose of the experiment is to put language on this and see if this works and see what doesn't work about this and how to talk about it and how to create it and, what it would be like to really do this. And I think the thing that's exciting for me about it is, I don't know. This whole thing could wind up being bullshit. I don't know. Certainly seems like it could be a good idea, but I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, and I know where I think where we would start really is in that purpose and that mission and that vision and that calling and that space so that you had the framework with which to build the leverage, the listings, the leverage and the leadership and the legacy. But from there, I don't know what form it'll take.
Well, I think that's what I know. So I already have some assumptions that I want to test in this experiment. And one of the assumptions is that this kind of work, like the kind of work where you're using your business as a fulfillment of your life's work, your impact, that it's easier done in a community of other people who are also engaged in that conversation. When you're trying to do purpose alone, when you're the smartest person in the room, when you're the one who is the only one that sees the vision and nobody, like when you're doing it alone, it's really hard to carry that and it feels ancillary. But when you're doing it with others, the conversation on an ongoing basis with others who are pointing their life in the direction of their impact, there's an energy that gets created that otherwise wouldn't be there. There's momentum, there's energy, there's new ideas in a spirit of harmony, new things arise or emerge that you otherwise couldn't see. And so part of my hypothesis here is that community is the thing that takes this further.
Yeah, it's interesting, Chris, because I think as Jeff Wilmore and Richard Condon are working with me on in a different domain, but the force field of business, the without a community of people who are true to this particular conversation and in this inquiry and playing in this experiment, the pull, the gravity, the force field of GCI, volume, closings, leads, listing, leverage, it still comes out of my mouth. It just came out of my mouth 4 minutes ago, that without a community that's true to this,
right,
it's going to be virtually impossible because the community of every single, the gravity of the world,
right,
of every other conversation that you're ever going to have in real estate is going to pull you to your volume, your listings, your GCI, how to do 6 more FSBOs this year. It just is. It just is. So we need to really create this. Part of this is to create lines of in here, this is who we are.
Yeah.
And we're out to expand this, but we really do need to deal with we're creating this inside of a culture that's not designed to support this, a conversation that does not empower this.
Right.
Even purpose-driven agent or whatever is about getting more listing. You know what I mean? Inside the world of GCI, it's about getting more.
That's right. That's how that's filtered. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, purpose-driven. Yeah. Purpose. Yeah. Right. Exactly. To get more business, more volume, more leads, more. Yeah. I love that word gravity, the gravity of that. It's like G forces. It just pulls you back right into the thing. And you don't really have a say if you don't create another mechanism, a different community or energy or space.
Right. Different conversation and then different people to listen
Right.
it and support
Right.
you. Yeah. So
Yeah. I'm excited to explore this whole thing with you in future recordings, just because I think there's a lot to unpack here. I think one part of the hypothesis is community. I think another piece of this is what we start to do together. In other words, like part of the gravitational pull or the status quo that it is in real estate, the way it's been done is that it's an industry full of pedestals, right? We'll go to a conference, we'll march out people on a panel, everybody in the audience will listen to the panels if they have all the answers. And then I think what's unique about what you and I are setting up here in this experiment is that this is a place none of us have gone before.
Mhm.
And so there are no, it's not my ego and Aaron's ego versus your ego, and we're having to measure anything here. This is about walking each other home. This is about listening to all that you're sharing, all that you see, you listening to all that we see, and then there is a co-creation.
Yeah, something
this
that will
experiment.
emerge. It's what I would consider to be an emergent phenomenon. It's not a thing. It's got to show up.
Right.
It's not a place to get to. It's a place to come from. It's something that will arise. And it's unseen now. And you and I this is the first recording to explore it with people, but because we're committed that it will arise.
Right.
And in fact, things have arisen on this call that we couldn't have seen at 9 a.m. when we started, which is the point. And then to create, and that's now then becomes the value of a weekly conversation,
right?
Because it's the repetitive nature of being willing to carve out time from the force field, from the gravitational pull of GCI, to carve out time to allow something new to arise, to begin to use us, and then to know that there's another occasion we have to get together where we're going to keep the space of that exploration, that experiment. So when we bring it back, out into the regular gravitational pull of life, we're slightly different every time. We're moving a half a degree.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love that, man. I love that. Emergent.
Yeah.
A place to come from, not a place to get to. Gosh, I love that. So good. And that's consistent with my experience of these kinds of spaces. Like I have multiple communities that I'm involved in, conversations like this I'm involved in. And what happens, the nature of showing up together is that things emerge. And it's not, I'm going to show up so I can get something. Like it's not in order to get somewhere. It is I'm showing up to see what emerges. And that is the contribution to my work,
right?
Not the answer I am looking to receive from showing up to the thing.
Yeah. And
which is how the industry does it.
Yeah. And it's not just showing up to see what emerges like over there. It's to show up and create that created emerging. Like you're going to be there authentically doing whatever work it is to do. The thing about the panels, right? I mean, you could show up at a conference and see what happens.
Right.
Let's just check it out. Let's see
what emerges.
Let's see what emerges at Inman tonight. Versus nothing emerges that way. That's not emerging. That's getting something. We mean, we really do mean you're engaged in something that you don't have the answer to until something shows up for you that's new. And that's really a different radical proposition.
And I think that's important when you're in the conversation of how do we make change in the world, when you're creating a gap between this is where we are and what I see to create or where I see to go. Nobody's been there yet.
Right.
You're the one seeing it. I'm not telling you what the vision is. You, the one with the agent with the purpose and the vision of something new. I think that's another cool piece is each of us have our own vision of something. This isn't like people come into a community to listen to Chris and Aaron's vision. This is this is a co-creation of each other's, like holding space for each other's thing to emerge.
Yeah.
And then going that direction.
Right. Now, how do we get this down to a 60-second TikTok? That is the question.
Yeah. Let's just make everything a soundbite. Let's live in a soundbite world. The gravitational pull of sound bites.
I need to get this into a reel quickly. What's the filter I would use to get this down to a minute?
Yeah. Right. Yes.
All right. All right. Well, I think that, so look, I think that lays out the framework, the guidelines, or the
Yeah, it's definitely a good
boundary
introduction
posts.
to the conversation. It's
Yeah.
that's a good taste test. And the way this feels is emergent. Like this type
Yeah.
of interaction is a
Is the
test
thing.
drive of
Totally. Because
this kind of conversation.
absolutely good. All right. Well, if this is something, if you're watching this, somehow you found this, or we sent this to you, or I don't know where this is going because we don't know what we're doing this. But if you found this and this is an interesting conversation to you and you think this would make a difference for you and your life and your business and what you're up to, let us know, because this is what we're beginning to build.
Yeah, we definitely want to have anybody that resonates with this is like we want to talk to, we just want to know you.
Yes.
I mean, like we want to sell you. There's nothing to sell you yet. There's no thing here yet.
There's nothing here yet.
But there is a coming together. And if this, yeah, like Aaron said, if this resonates with you, like let's at least
talk.
connect.
Let's connect.
I'd love to hear what your vision is. What is your vision? What do you see? What's
interesting about this conversation for you?
Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
Awesome, Aaron. Thank you, man.